in the world. I mean, I'm going to come back to the currency here in a second, but I think we've come back to a place in the world where we look at the UN as we got to ask mom and dad for permission on everything. That's a way for everybody to get together and talk things out. But we don't answer to the UN. And yet they are building a world where we will be forced to answer to them. They said on the currency, we need to have a global security council for our finances where, oh, by the way, we're also going to tax everybody 1%. You got to be kidding me. Why isn't there more outrage from this?
These ideas are all out there floating around. They have been for some number of years. During the Bush administration, I think people didn't press them because they didn't see any real possibility that they would be accepted. But I think they're all going to come out of the desk drawers now. They're all going to be out there for discussion. People don't talk about world government anymore because they know how unpopular that concept is, I think, for the overwhelming majority of Americans. Instead, they talk about global governance as if that's something different. That's where a lot of these proposals come from.
So let me take you here into the dark recesses of insanity, I guess. And that is, look, I mean, all you need is Rahm Emanuel's phrase, and that is, you just need an emergency. We are trashing our dollar. We are racking up so much debt. We are devaluing our dollar. We have other countries that are also saying, we got to get out of the dollar. Their countries are also struggling. If you have this thing melt down, if it collapses, all you need, because they're already saying it, we need a global solution. All you need is the emergency, and all that stuff that was in, you know, the drawers of people's offices forever come out, and they become reasonable because people are hungry, and the UN provides an answer. Is that crazy?
Well, you know, if the administration continues these proposals for massive increases in federal expenditures, massive deficits, they've got to find a way to fund it. And it's either through more government debt or printing money, both of which have the impact of reducing the value of the dollar. And when you get away from the concept of a strong dollar, which is important to us economically and politically, people are going to say, we want alternatives. And that fits right into these suggestions by China and Russia and others. So our own domestic policy is doing this to the dollar. It's not some conspiracy from outside. As you rightly say, we are trashing the dollar by reducing its value.
Yeah. Okay, so help me out on this. You're known as a fighter. I mean, you were a guy in there, man. You were just taking the fight right to them. So what does the average person do? I mean, the average person, they hear, you know, I might be losing my sovereignty. How do we fight that? Especially when there was a story today about Haley Barbour. I mean, here's a guy who's a Republican. Haley Barbour is not. Originally, I saw the headline. I thought he was fighting against eminent domain. I thought he was actually going in and saying, hey, now eminent domain is important for some stuff, but not for new casinos. And the Republicans aren't even standing up against eminent domain. What? Who's on our side?
Well, you know, I think it's important we understand what we mean by sovereignty. To Europeans and many left-wing intellectuals in this country, it's just kind of an abstract concept that doesn't mean much. But I think to most Americans, sovereignty means our control over our own government. It's about self-government.
Yes.
So preserving sovereignty means keeping control over what the politicians are doing. And I have to say, I am optimistic on this score, because I think when Americans understand what the risks are, they will stand up and tell their members of Congress, but don't even think about it. But we've got to get organized. There's no doubt about it.
Ambassador, when you say world government, it does sound nuts. And because everybody knows nobody's for world government. But again, if you
and that's why they don't call it world government.
Pardon me? I know.
Well, that's why they don't call it. That's why they don't call it world government anymore, and they'll try and find these other phrases, but you have to look underneath of it, and it's on a range of issues, not just the money supply, but gun control, the death penalty, abortion, all global warming, all of which are issues we can and should debate in our constitutional democratic framework. We don't need to decide them internationally, but that's what the agenda is of many people very close to the Obama administration.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it, Ambassador. By the way, in this month's Fusion magazine, which was my news and humor magazine, Springtime for Bailouts, you should see Alan Greenspan in the frilly dress there. There's a couple of stories. One is how the Fed caused the current crisis. That is from written by Dr. Ron Paul. And then there's another one, schooling in the UN. This is somebody that has written. She's an attorney, etc., etc. But she's written a story about, you want to homeschool? Not so much with the United Nations. You can get all the information at glennbeck.com, and you can find it there on how to subscribe to Fusion Magazine. Now, I saw a story over the weekend about these bus tours that they're giving to the homes of the AIG executives, and I thought, wow, let's get carried away with a populist anger. Or we could ask the question, who chartered that bus? Oh, next.